In this demo, we'll take a look at how to securely provision cloud resources using Kyverno and Crossplane. So for this demo, I have Crossplane installed on my management cluster and as well as Kyverno policy engine installed in the cluster. So Crossplane is enables infrastructure as code using Kubernetes, and Kyverno is a Kubernetes native policy engine. So for the demo, we'll first install the policies. In this case, we'll be using policies that are for AWS S3 service. So and then we'll see how those policies can be enforced on any S3 buckets being created by the user, right? So based on the policies, the user will be able to create the S3 bucket, or the request will be denied. And this will demonstrate how policies can be enforced when creating cloud resources using Crossplane with Kyverno as the policy engine. So let's jump into the demo. So I have a Kubernetes cluster over here, and this cluster is currently it just has one policy called check images. So I will go to my S3 repo where I have several policies already created. So before we install these policies, let's quickly take a look at what these policies can do and how they are written. So we have policy over here which checks if logging is enabled on the S3 bucket. We have policies that check if notifications are enabled. We have another policy which prevents S3 buckets to be created in any region other than US West 2. We also have policy that can prevent S3 bucket to be created with public access, and a policy that ensures that versioning is enabled on S3 bucket. So what we'll do is we will try to create two S3 buckets once the policies are installed, one in US East, and this one should be denied. And then we'll create an S3 bucket in US West called Crossplane S3 US West bucket. So back to the CLI. First, let's install the policies. All right, so the policies are installed. We can use the get cpol command to check if the policies have been installed correctly and are ready. So we have most of these policies in enforce mode and the last one in audit mode. So let me clear the screen, and now we can go to my resources folder where I have two resources that I would like to create. The first one being the S3 bucket in US East. So kubectl create -f. And I would expect this bucket to be bucket creation to be denied. And as you can see, various policies have been violated, so this bucket is not created. So next, let's create the S3 bucket in US West. So in this case, the S3 bucket is created, and if I use the command get kubectl get bucket, I should see the S3 bucket actually created in my Kubernetes cluster. So now let's go and check in the AWS console if the bucket is created. So here in my AWS console, I see that this bucket has been created. Next, let's see how can we enforce or configure policies on resources that are created directly in the cloud using the cloud, the console, or some other means, so some other infrastructure as a code solution, right? So with Crossplane, you can actually discover or import resources that are created in the cloud. So if we go to our cloud account, I have here I have Elastic Container Service, and I have an ECS task which is created. So with Crossplane, we can actually import that ECS task into my cluster, and then we can apply some policies. For example, this policy will check if the images are from the approved repositories, and then we have policy for checking if the resources are within the allowed limits. So first, let's apply these policies to the cluster. And next, we will trigger the import of the resource. So let's apply the ECS task to be imported into the cluster. And now let's check if the task has been created. So as you can see, the task has been created and has been synchronized. So we can get more details of the task now. So now you can see all the task definition have been fetched, and we can now look at the policy results. So we can see now we have a few different policy results. So we have, for the task, we have a failure, which basically says that the task definition does not have image from the approved registry. We can actually check the report and look at the details. So here in the details, we can see that the images are not coming from an authorized repository. And we can also see reports, policy reports for the S3 bucket. So in this case, we have most of them passing, but then we have one failure, which is related to notifications not being enabled. And this was an audit policy, so we are seeing the failure over here, whereas all the other policies were enforced and they were passing, so the S3 bucket was created. So overall, we can see both. We can apply policies to the resources created using Crossplane, and we can also apply policies to resources that are cloud resources that are created externally, directly using the Cloud API or some other external tool. But then, then Crossplane can be used to import those resources so that policies can be applied. So next, let's look at how this would look like in the Nirmata Policy Manager. So Nirmata Policy Manager provides a quick overview of all of your policies, policy violations, as well as the security and compliance posture for all your clusters. So let's look at the policy violations. So here we can see that we have some policy violations. The category is cloud security best practices. And if we drill down, we should be able to see all of the policy violations. 4 of them were successful. 4 of the policies were successful, but the one failure related to the AWS S3 notifications not being enabled. You can see those over here. We can also take a look at events, and the events will show us any blocked events. So we have some blocked events like S3 notifications, not enabled. So any resources that were blocked, we can see those events as well. In addition to showing these violations, in the policy manager, we can also see the overall compliance and posture of your clusters, because these policies are mapped, policies and the violations are mapped to various compliance standards. So that's it for this demo. Just reach out to us if you have questions, and feel free to test drive Nirmata Policy Manager as well as Kyverno, and would love to hear more feedback. Thank you.